Hello, Vianney Griffins, and welcome to this video production of our first lesson on exploration. Kind of as we go into this video, it's important to remember three separate things. Today in our lesson, we want to learn why, how, and who. Why did Europeans all of a sudden want to explore outside their borders? How were they finally able to do it after so many decades of not being able to do it? And then who were the famous explorers that kind of started this whole journey for the European continent? Here are four reasons why we wanted to explore outside of our borders. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at those mostly in class, but here's just a brief overview for you. The first is for a search for wealth. See, merchants for a long time had been getting their various spices and luxuries through the Ottoman Empire. These merchants were having to pay huge taxes to be able to do that. And also, the Ottoman Turks were only allowing a certain amount through before they would start cutting off trade. Once these Europeans were able to find a different water route around, they were able to carry a lot more weight and be able to do it tax-free. So it became very enticing to try to find a water route all the way to Asia and back. Our second was because of a desire for fame and glory. Just as it is today, to have your name go down in history as one of the greats of anything is very enticing for people. We will always remember names like Christopher Columbus, this is Scipio Africanus, this is Lewis and Clark, and Lance Armstrong as people that we will always remember throughout history as great explorers. And people wanted that for themselves, just like we still want today. Our third is this new competition that has begun between the different factions of Christianity, primarily between Catholics and Protestants. As more and more of these ships start going out, the Catholic Church and the Protestant churches all of a sudden realize that while these ships are going out, they could be converting the, as they call them, godless heathens throughout the world to their various religions. Now, this would be far easier to do than the Catholics or Protestants that were in Europe that hated their guts. So they're trying to go out there and find as many souls as possible. This is known as religious zeal. Our fourth is curiosity. This one's more of just a general overall idea. Humans are naturally curious, but this curiosity was kind of spiked with the writings of Marco Polo. Marco Polo had spent a decade in China and had written a book on his travels and his different experiences. When he came back, this gave a whole generation of people in Europe a huge appetite for to explore what else was in the world. This gave everyone huge goals and expectations. I think of this a lot as a kind of the shift in the 1960s, 50s, and 60s from when kids used to play as cowboys and Indians, and all of a sudden now they want to be astronauts. Not because of big, new teaching idea or anything like that in schools, but because everyone was talking about the next great frontier being space and not the wild, wild west. And so when that happens, everyone now wants to be an astronaut instead of a cowboy. So here's our four drivers for exploration. Now, our second question for today is how did they do it? Because for a long time, they weren't able to do it until new technology was developed. Our primary technology that we're going to talk about is the caravel, something you guys are a little bit more familiar with. But the caravel had three advantages over previous ship designs in Europe. Our first is that it has a rudder. I know this seems very simple, but prior to the rudder, you had to use oars to steer your ship. With the rudder now, you don't even have to do anything. You can have one person steering the entire ship, which is a huge advantage. The lateen sails were probably the biggest advantage over previous ships design. The lateen sails allows you to sail in any direction, including almost directly into the wind, which gives these ships the ability to sail really anywhere in the world. Lastly, these ships are very light. They're kind of small, but they have a huge carrying capacity, again, 50 tons, which if you compare that to the land travel of the Spice Road merchants, we're talking approximately 400 horses worth of carrying capacity in one ship. So trying to lead 400 horses across several deserts and thousands of miles is not very attractive whenever you can take one ship on the ocean and bring back as many spices as you possibly can. The compass and astrolabe also gave sailors the ability to know exactly where they were in the world by only using the stars above them. Previous sailors had to use landmarks along the coastline, which means that they have to stay near the coastline and able to use it. However, the compass and astrolabe allows them to use the stars as their landmarks instead of various natural environments. Lastly, our third question is who explored? And a number of countries will get in the game very quickly. Our first country is going to be Portugal. Portugal has the advantage of geography. It is in a coastal nation, and with that coastal nation, they have a heritage of great sailors, and so they have ships and sailors and experience that many nations do not have. For instance, Germany, France, or some of the other ones. Our first big sailor that we need to know about is actually not a sailor at all. He's a navigator, and he's a very wealthy prince. This is Prince Henry the Navigator. He's going to establish a naval school in Portugal to essentially train the very best sailors and crews to go and try to find these water routes all the way to Asia. See, he realizes that if these people find these water routes for Portugal, that they will be able to secure these routes and make Portugal very wealthy, and by that, him very wealthy. So he's making an investment at this time in order for later there to be a huge return on his investment. So he's going to send out his ships, and in 1488, we're going to have our first big accomplishment, which is Bartholomew Diaz is going to make it all the way to the southern tip of Africa. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is at the time because it makes them realize that there is an end to the African continent. There is an end to this long journey. Following that discovery in 1497, Vasco da Gama is going to make it all the way to India, therefore establishing a water route from Europe all the way to India and to Asia, and virtually overnight making Portugal one of the strongest empires in the world. Other nations, after Portugal gets started, other nations are going to try and do the exact same thing. Once Portugal kind of establishes that water route, they're going to protect it with their own navy and essentially blow up any other ship that tries to use it. So other people want to try to find faster routes other ways. We'll talk a lot more about Christopher Columbus in the coming days. But here's another person from Spain, Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan is going to sail west, and he's going to try to find a water route west, much like Christopher Columbus did. In his attempt, he's going to be one of the first people to circumnavigate the globe. He's going to take 5 ships, and at the end of several years of a journey, he's going to make it all the way back to Spain. Him, not so much, but his crew will make it all the way back. After almost 3 years at sea. A third country that will get involved is France. France will try to find the Northwest Passage, that is trying to go north of North America through those icy straits that many of you guys tried to go through during your own exploration journey. He is going to fail. However, in the process, he's going to claim much of the northern half of North America, and he's going to name it Canada. So Jacques Cartier in 1534 is going to discover and claim Canada for France. Our last country that we're going to look at is the Dutch from the Netherlands. They're going to try the Northwest Passage as well. They're going to fail, but they're going to sail back down the eastern coast of the modern-day United States and claim a small island, which they're going to call New Netherlands. This will be a very famous city in the future after it's claimed by the English and renamed New York. That, my friends, is the site of modern-day New York City. So this all kind of brings us to this idea that the world in itself, especially European descent, really have this exploration mindset that we are constantly pushing for new and better things. And so I kind of want you to just think, what is the next frontier of us, humanity? Where are we going next now that we have kind of mapped out the entire world? All right, guys, have a great night.